Welcome, Midori Verity, to Coaching in Session. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Michael.
Of course. So I have you on. You are a mindset coach like myself, and you're also an entrepreneur coach. But in your own words, can you tell people who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I do both. And the reason why is because I've owned businesses for 30 years. And the first business that I had, I hated, Michael. I hated it down to my core. It was a horrible experience. Um, I had so much anxiety and stress, and I just felt totally stuck from that business. And I had at that point, when I got to the point where I couldn't take it anymore, it was about 10 years in. And like I said, I felt stuck and I didn't know what to do. And at that point, I realized I need to go find some solutions here. And along that journey, I discovered something called neuroplasticity, which is basically neuroscience and how we can change our whole mindset. I know you're from this world, so you understand that. But that's what I was looking for. And once I found it, and once I met a gentleman who knew a lot about it and he told me about it, I realized, oh my gosh, I have the control of my life. I have the control of what I'm doing. And it was like this huge weight was lifted. So that's why not only can I coach in entrepreneurship from 30 years of experience, but the mindset part is equally as important. So
Mhm.
that is me in a nutshell.
Okay, yeah, I'm very familiar with neuroplasticity. I think we just wrote a blog on that. It's probably 20 or 30 episodes now from that episode of neuroplasticity. So there's a whole blog. If anyone wants to check it out, neuroplasticity, just type that in anywhere on the website. And then, of course, you're going to get to it. But the idea of being malleable and being moldable is something that many people fall victim of, where they just say, this is just who I am. And then that's the path that they go down, where it's like at some point they just lose their drive to be more, they lose their identity, and they accept the circumstances that were allotted to them. What do you tell people who think that this is it, right? Where they're maybe at a stopping point and they don't want to push past or go down a different road. They just say, this is who I am. This is my life circumstances. There's nothing left for me.
This is kind of what I have to stay in. And that's how I felt. And so what I say to them is once you can get hold of your mindset and you learn how to recognize recurring patterns that aren't serving you anymore, you recognize the limiting beliefs that you're telling yourself, and then you find strategies on how to change that. That's like a magic wand. It's crazy. It's not that hard to change our beliefs, but it does take awareness and action, consistent action on changing that. But there's a book called the Four Agreements by Miguel Ruiz. Have you read that book, Michael?
Probably. I've read so many
Yeah,
books.
it's a really short book, but it's very profound, and
Mhm.
it explains this. It talks about how people, just in general, it's kind of natural. Our natural tendency is to live in a box, and the box represents our safety zone. It doesn't mean that we're happy in this box, but as long as we operate from within this box, where we are free from criticism and embarrassment and shame. If we stay in that box and we're free from that, the part that we really want is usually outside of that box, right? We have to push through those constraints, those mental constraints, worrying about shame and embarrassment and failure and all those things that we say to ourselves. And then once you can do that, and once you build a muscle to consistently push yourself outside of those boundaries, there's a whole new world that happens. There's a confidence that arises out of you, and things that may have seemed impossible before or not in alignment for you start to shift.
Mhm.
And then your eyes start opening up to what's possible.
We are going to go nitty gritty past that and go straight into the advanced stuff because my audience is probably well versed in mindset. So they're going to be more advanced. So we're going to just dive deep without kind of making it baby steps for them. We understand that the reason why many people don't do the change is because change requires so much energy. The other factor is that society is going to play a huge role in it. What my environment is going to be typically what I'm going to be looking at. So, for example, if I'm in high school, you see this quite often where we have peer groups and we try to be a part of those peer groups to be accepted. And that is to start, or maybe the solidification of people saying, this is my comfort zone. Getting out of that is going to be essential for people. If people can't get out of that type of mentality, that high school type of mentality very quickly, then they're going to be stuck as adults. I saw it as a teacher. I would be raising these kids, elementary, as they're going up, middle school, you start to see it a little bit more. And then high school, you start to see it like, wow, these kids are not going to be functional adults. Not saying I'm pessimistic, but you just see the cause and effect that's happening. It's a train wreck down the line. They're just not equipped to handle that change. So what do? They don't do it because they're just not equipped for it. What are some tips or tricks that we can help give to our young adults, right? Our high schoolers, our teens, to help them understand that high school is high school, but it's not adulthood.
Yeah, I think what it is and what we're talking about is fear, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
really what it comes down to is the fear. What I talk to quite often, whether it's a teenager or whether it's an adult, is really getting clear on who you are. What are your core values? What are your passions and your drives and your motivators? And then also, what are you really good at? What comes to you naturally that you actually love to do? I call that your zone of genius. So, your zone of genius is what you're naturally great at, but that you also love to do. And getting clear on that. Once you do that, then, and you have it written out, then you know how to make the right decisions for yourself. And I call this your personal mission statement. Once you know what your personal mission statement, which includes those three components, then as long as you're making your decisions in alignment with your personal mission statement, you're going to be okay. The next step on top of that is to think about, where do you want to go in life? Like, if you could wave a magic wand and do whatever you wanted, there's no restrictions, there is no fear, there's no guilt, money's not an issue, it doesn't matter, your education doesn't matter. What is it that fires you up that you really want? And get clear on that. So whether it's a certain career that you want, whether you want to own a business that is an XYZ, whether you want a certain lifestyle, getting clear on that. And then we take that idea and we put it into something called the Summit Goal Mapping Framework. And really, what I see from working with so many people is that people have ideas of what they want to do. And they either stay stuck and they don't do it. So they'll stay in a job that they hate, or they'll own a company that is not in alignment with them. And then they end up not in a good place. So when they can create a framework that keeps them clear and keeps them on a path, it's a lot easier to get there. So they have their big, what we call the summit goals. Those are those stretch goals that maybe they don't see how they're going to get there yet, but they know that that's what they want. And then you break it down into approach goals, which are 90-day or quarterly goals to help you get there. And then you have action steps underneath that. But what happens is, as you stay focused on your approach goals and you start making them happen, that which you thought was not possible for you starts to happen. It starts to occur, and you start to get this confidence and you start to take bigger steps. So that's one thing, having some type of written out, very clear, very concise strategy on where you want to go. Number two, and I'm sure you talk to your clients about this, is visualization. You have to be able to see it, to believe it, to take the action steps to make it happen, right? So that's the other thing. So even if, when John F. Kennedy decided he wanted to put a man on the moon and he announced that to the world, he didn't know how he was going to do it, but he was clear on what it looked like, right? There's a man on the moon, and he knew that there was some way to do it, but he didn't know how. It's the same idea with your goals and where you want to go. And the more that you can visualize it, see yourself in the present tense being there, what it looks like, what it feels like, who are you with, how do you feel, what are the words that describe you, the more that you're going to start taking action steps, even subconsciously, to get there.
And you're absolutely right, from high school, where we have to be understanding, or we have to make ourselves aware of what we want. Sometimes we just kind of go down a path that was given to us. Maybe our parents kind of told us what we had to do, what not to do. So we have some inclination, but we might go down that path and realize it's not for us. I know for me, when I was in high school, I was going to go to college, but then I had a voice inside of me too saying, well, I want to go to the army because I grew up poor and we didn't have money for college. So how in the heck am I going to go to college? I don't have no money. My parents didn't have any money. So I had to make a choice. I was like, well, if I'm going to do this college thing, I'm not going to be able to fool around. So I had to get real concise on what needed to be done. I worked a part-time, a full-time job. I did 15 to 18 credits a semester and I put myself through college. Now, when I look back at it, I am in amazement. How in the heck did I do that? And I see people struggling with 3 credits. I'm like, yeah, you don't know struggle, I guess. But that was my struggle. That was what I built myself up to handle. I said, this has to be done. There is no other alternative. So I gave my mind basically a roadmap of what I wanted and how to do it. And the mind just had to show up. So it had to basically conserve the energy of what I needed each and every day. It understood because if you tell a kid to do their homework, they're probably going to complain up and down, left and right that they don't want to do their homework. But for me, if you told me to do my homework, I was like, that's a given. I have this paper, that paper, this thesis, that thesis. I have to do this project. And it's so many different things on top of me going to work 66 hours a week. So, how am I able to do that? But then the next person who might have a full scholarship can't even go there while they're living in the dorm doing just 12 credits a semester. It takes a different type of person, a different type of mentality. We can get into that a little bit too. What type of person is that, right? Is that like a person who is going to be confident, a person who is able to plan, a person who was just understanding of what they had to do, their role, their job, and they showed up? Or is it going to be just kind of like, well, this is part of life. I'm going to go through it. If I do well, I do well. If I don't, I don't. So it's kind of like that nonchalant attitude.
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily a personality style. I think it's a determination. You
Mm.
knew you were going to graduate. You knew that there's no other alternative, right? If you didn't go to college and get your degree, I'm assuming you saw that as a big benefit for you for your future. And failure was not an option. That's what
Yeah.
it sounds like.
Yeah. It was because I wanted to be a teacher. And in order to be a teacher, you had to have a degree.
Yeah. I have a cool story about this exact thing. And it's from Jack Canfield. He was talking about, and I'll talk about how I use this with a young person and how it changed their life. So Jack Canfield was talking about this young boy, I think he was 9 years old, and he was living in a truck with his father at this point, but he was going to school. And so the teacher assigned them a project to create this whole collage of what their life was, what their future life was going to be when they became an adult. So this boy was super excited. He went home and he created this beautiful collage of him owning a horse ranch. And I think it was like 330 something acres. And he had like 111 horses. And this was what he wanted. And so he went back to school. He's really excited. He presented it to the teacher. He got it back about a week later with a big F. So he went to talk to the teacher and said, why do I have an F? And she said, because this isn't realistic for you. I will give you another chance. You can go home, redo this, make it so that it's in alignment with who you are and what's possible for you in reality, and then you can turn it back in. So he went back to his dad, talked to him about it. His dad said, this is your dream. You choose what your dream is. So he went back to school that Monday, turned in the same project and said, this is it. So fast forward, Jack Canfield is presenting this story. He's at a ranch in Santa Barbara, and he goes over and he picks up the plaque, and he's at this guy's house, the same boy who now has grown up. He's known as the horse whisperer. His name is Monty Williams. You can look him up. He's a pretty big guy, and he uses his 300 and something acre ranch to raise all these horses to help young people who are also struggling. And he's been very, very incredibly successful. Those in the horse world know who he is. And so he made his dream happen. I presented this story, this video, this clip from Jack Canfield to a boy who I knew who was struggling. He was in high school. He had big dreams, but his friends would always make fun of him when he'd talk about his dreams and what he wanted to accomplish. And they'd say, oh my gosh, whatever, that's a joke. There's no way you could ever do that. And they were talking him down. And I was listening to this boy and I knew he needed something bigger to help him see that, yeah, it could be a reality for him. So I showed him that video Again, he was probably about 16 at that point. Fast forward, he's now 26 years old. He has gone on to host a TED Talk in college. He did a Kickstarter campaigns, and he raised $55,000 for a product that he created. And he owns a company that went from 0 to 5 million in 3 years. That was the shift. It's all in our mind. So with what you said, you were determined to make something happen, and you did. There was no other alternative. You had to work. She had to pay for it, right? But you knew you had to get those classes done. You were going to do whatever it took to make it happen. There was no alternative. With this boy, he saw that it was possible, and he had to keep on taking the steps to make it happen, and it worked. So again, it's not a personality style. It's not that one person comes from something and someone doesn't come from something. It's what you're determined to do. It's that mindset.
To touch base on two topics there. One, when I was in college and I saw my friends, the peer groups that I was around, they were without. I'll just say that. It wasn't that they were poor. And it wasn't that they couldn't afford college. It was just that they had a different type of mindset, where if we went out to eat, or if we went out to go play laser tag or bowling, some of them might not be able to do it because they didn't have money. And I thought that was always foreign to me. I was like, don't you work? In my head, like, can't we save a little bit of money? So they weren't able to have money. But then I started to see the separation in how I was going versus how, I guess, my peer group or society at that age was going. And I was like, I enjoy this. It is a lonely path, I was thinking in my mind, but it was still what I wanted. So that is that. And then getting into the aspect of limiting beliefs in teachers. The whole reason why I started this company, number one, was because of a teacher who told a little boy that he couldn't do something. That was the whole reason behind the company. And Reven is just never turned backwards. If you read the website, went to some of the podcasts, I talk about it here and there. But Reven is really just never turned backwards. Where I was a swim coach at one point in my life, I think it was in college and then in the beginning of my teaching career, where I would teach children how to swim. It was one day I was at the facility and I had an open spot where I was just doing a lot of makeup lessons that day. One other instructor had one of her kids come in, and she was booked with like another kid. So it was like a double booked. I had some availability. So they asked me if I would take on one of her kids. I said, sure, not a problem. So I take on this young boy. He was probably 5 or 6, and he was a very strong swimmer. But there was one thing wrong. He didn't swim in the deep end. So when we're beginning in the shallow end and we're just swimming a little bit, I see he's a strong swimmer. So I'm like, let's go to deep end, right? Let's turn this up a little bit. And as soon as we get where he couldn't stand anymore, froze. He's like, I can't swim in the deep end. And I'm thinking in my head, why can't you swim in the deep end? He's like, I'm afraid. I'm like, okay, well, let's see what we can do. Bring him to the wall. Sure enough, you want to let go of the wall. We're working to get him swimming in the deep end. The teacher came to me, his teacher came to me and said, he can't swim in the deep end, don't even bother. And I'm thinking in my head, game on. I wasn't upset with her. I wasn't like, I'm going to show you. It was just game on. I remember it in my head. It was like a switch, game on. So at that point, I think 10 minutes have already passed of the session. And it's a 30-minute session. I have 20 minutes to teach this kid how to swim. Now I went full throttle, 100%. I don't even think I took a breath. I had to, but it was that fast where eventually I got him to swim, right? Long story short. After the session, the mom came to me and she was like, oh my God, like, I can't believe you got him to swim in the deep end, blah, blah, blah. You did more in 30 minutes with him than he has had his whole entire swimming career. I go, thank you, mom, blah, blah, blah. The mom wanted to switch. I'm not available, but he has that mindset now. He can swim in the deep end. There could be no problems. And then after he was going up the stairs, I was getting ready for my next class and I'm winded. I'm already kind of like at that point, like, oh man, I'm ready to go home. Where I just went in the water, just went underwater and just took a deep breath. And then I had to like switch my personality because like I had a different kid. So it was kind of like different personalities for different kids sometimes. When I was just about to go in the water, I look at the teacher and she just like rolled her eyes at me. And I just like, and then it was like that moment of bliss. I just kind of like went underwater. I was like, yes.
You made a profound difference. And what's so beautiful about that story and then the story that you've told about yourself with you determined to go to college and to get through and to do whatever it took is that as you accomplish these monumental goals, right? These monumental objectives, your confidence goes up, but also the possibilities go up, right? You started as a teacher, now you have transgressed into being a coach. And there's something that happens with each big thing that we accomplish. Then the stakes get higher, right? And you just keep on going, keep going. So when you can teach children or adults, especially, that pattern, right? Keep pushing. You're going to get there. You're going to get to somewhere great if you just keep pushing and believing that you can, and having a system. Like we talked about this, I keep coming back to the Summit goal system, goal mapping system, because it's tangible, right? If you can use this system each time, rinse, repeat, whatever the goal is, then you learn a habit on how to accomplish different things. It gives you something else outside of yourself to rely on. And so both those examples are fantastic at showing what's possible. And it's all mindset. That's all it is. It wasn't that he became all of a sudden this phenomenal swimmer. It's that you did something to instill in him that he could.
Exactly. That is the whole starting point, right? Those limiting beliefs keep a lot of people anchored down, where it's like they have to be bigger than those limiting beliefs. There's going to be people in every walk of life, no matter what age you are, that are going to look at what you do and they're going to look down on you. And the reason for that can be many, but one of the main reasons is because if they see you're too far ahead, they're going to try to bring you back to them, because they don't want to feel like they're not pushing, that they're not doing enough in their day. They're not, but at the same time, they don't want to come to the realization of, I can be more, I can do more. Let me bring this person to my level, and then I can have some sense of satisfaction where we're on equal playing terms. This has become almost like a race or game where it's like, how better can I be than my next person? And I mean, that's a dangerous game to play, because if you're always in competition with someone, you really can't focus on what you can do. Kobe Bryant said this the best, where it's like he was his own competition. And even though sometimes he found someone with the same DNA like him, he was still the person he was trying to beat every single day. So the same DNA person he talks about quite often is Michael Jordan. That was his rival, but he was still his biggest rival, even though he knew MJ was so great and he had that mentality of bring it. And I'm going to show you every single time. It takes a special person to really get into that mindset and to find the discipline to show up 100% every single day. And what I wanted to ask you was, yes, we can follow the 7 steps. We can become more mindful. We can get coaching. But at the end of the day, most of that responsibility comes up to us, because we might get to a point and we say we give up, right? We give up, and success could be right around the corner, but we say, I give up. And you probably hear this quite often. Success is going to be right at that point when you're about to give up, where it's like, don't give up, keep pushing. And then if you can push a little bit more, success is going to be waiting. If you see like a diagram or something of like a miner and he gives up, and then there's another guy who's kind of going, and there's gold and diamonds on the other end, where the guy was just about to give up. So it's kind of like that point. Like, how do we know? One last second, one last day, one last hour, whatever it be, keep on pushing and not give up. Giving up has become so easy nowadays, where I don't think people think twice about it anymore.
I think it becomes a habit. It becomes a cycle, right? Why not create a new cycle, a new habit, a new approach to life? And one thing with what you're talking about is, this is something that I heard from kind of a guru guy, is many overestimate what they can accomplish in 12 months, whereas more people underestimate what they can accomplish in 3 years, right? Greatness doesn't come overnight. Someone doesn't just snap. Michael Jordan or any of these super athletes or these very successful people didn't get there overnight. They worked hard consistently. Michael Jordan was cut when he was, I think, in high school. He was cut from the team, but he came back, and history shows what happened for him. This is part of it. The more bumps and bruises that we have, the more that we learn, the stronger we become, the more that we learn how to adapt and how to change and how to overcome whatever those challenges are. So it's your mindset. How are you approaching when you get knocked out at your knees? For me, during the pandemic, I have multiple businesses, but the one that was bringing in the most money for us, the one that was paying all of our big bills, is an event business. We went from projecting that it was going to be the best year we ever had to overnight everything getting shut down and thinking, oh my gosh, we may go bankrupt. This company will not last. What are we going to do? Right. But because I've owned businesses for so many years and been through recessions and had those gut punches and my knees knocked out so many times, I've built up this muscle, this ability to think of, okay, well, what are the opportunities now? And getting excited about that. So what happened from that experience of thinking, oh my gosh, now all of a sudden we're getting back tens of thousands of dollars overnight, wondering how we're going to make it through this, to what are the opportunities here? And that led me to starting 2 companies within 6 months. We sold one, and I have Fuel the Fires, the one that I've kept. That company, this company that I have now, is the most in alignment with me that I've ever had. It's projected to be incredibly successful because I love it so much, because it's in alignment with who I am, like we talked about in the very beginning, right? The personal mission statement, your passions, your drives, and your core values. And it's all in alignment with that. And so each day I get up and I'm fired up, and I have a ton of challenges. My business partner and I had a falling out, and it didn't work out. There's challenges in life and in business. What determines how successful you're going to be is how you respond to those. Are you going to give up, or are you going to see it as, oh, there you are. There's that challenge. I was waiting for you. You did it with yourself to get through college, right? I'm sure you came up with all kinds of challenges, but there was no other option. You knew you were going to get through it because you wanted it so bad.
Yeah, it was just like the destiny for me. It's kind of like this will be. And I just had to go down that path and just make sure I didn't stop. Yeah, there were some days when I wanted to give up. There were some days when I wanted to sleep or not show up. Again, it was me understanding my goal really well, and then understanding that I was the person in charge of me, in charge of that goal. There was many renditions of mindset down that path where it's kind of like you learn something and then you grow from it. We get beat down and then we get built back better. I find that to be very true. It's similar to how if you break a bone, when your bone heals, or that where that fracture was, it's actually stronger than it was before. It's similar to how we create habits, how we form our mindset, where you're going to have setbacks, you're going to have failures. And if you can bounce back every single time, you become stronger, you create stronger habits. So later in the future, when you have something really, really big, you're going to be able to handle it to some degree. And I'm not saying that you have to do it yourself either. One of the best things that you can do is get yourself a mentor, a coach, a guide that can be there to help and support you. And when I went on that journey of me becoming who I was, I didn't even know there was such things as mindset coaches and life coaches. Yeah, I knew about personal development. So that's what I did. I read a bunch of personal development books. But if I had a coach in my corner, I would have been catapulted into a new realm at an earlier age. Not saying that I'm not happy about my journey, but it's just a difference. And I tell people all the time, similar to investing. If you can invest at an early age, the compound interest is going to be something that you're going to be more happy with than if you waited till 40 or 50. You start working on your life at an early age. And then you can say, all right, when I'm 35, this is what I'm going to have, versus, all right, I'm 50, let me piece my life together. You can wait. Everyone lives life differently. Sometimes people like to get burned. Sometimes people can listen to wisdom and they can say, all right, I don't want to go down that road. Let me make adjustments. And I find like having a mindset coach like yourself, like me, just in the corner, kind of saying, hey, let's get to your goal. Let's get to a better you. And let's not stop, right? Like, what do you want? Tell me why you want it. And then let's be hungry to get it. So all of that is a huge asset to someone, just having a coach in their corner. And it doesn't even have to be so much of, I need a coach, because you don't need a coach. It's important to have a coach because they can help propel you so much quicker. And that's why I want people to understand. You can get somewhere quicker. Would you rather take 24 hours to drive by car to go to New York? Or would you rather go on a plane and spend 3.5, 4 hours? Probably the plane, right? It's going to be a little bit more comfortable. Comfortable 24 hours, uncomfortable 4 hours. You decide.
100%. And I think when people, we talked about visualization earlier, and this is a big mindset thing, right? When you know, when you start to believe that you can achieve whatever that big goal is. So whether it's becoming a teacher, whether it's becoming an entrepreneur that owns a 7 or 8 figure business, whatever it is, and you see it, you believe it, and you're taking action towards it. When you have visualized so much that it becomes your reality, right? That you know it's just a matter of time for you to achieve this goal. That's how you manifest. That's how you manifest things into reality. It's not some weird woo-woo thing. It's actually, there's science behind it. So when it's that real, then it's kind of like, okay, well, I know that I'm going to get there, and I can choose to either take the long path to get there, or I can do what it takes to get me there quicker. And what's
Mhm.
that going to entail? That's going to entail me taking more risky, stretchier action steps, such as hiring a coach, such as investing in this or that, or I'm not saying that you should quit your job, but just getting rid of the distractions that are in the way, because you know that you're going to reach these goals. But that has to be clear. It's so important that you believe that you can get there and that it's going to be a reality, and then fill in the blanks. Okay, so
Mhm.
now that I know this, what do I need to do? If you have a coach or a mentor, or you're surrounded by people who've already been there and done that, they're going to help lessen that learning curve for you, right? They're going to they're going to share their wisdom of all the mistakes that they made and what they've learned from their clients and help you get there quicker. And so when you talk about having a coach or mentor, that's the benefit of it, is that they're going to tell you, nope, this idea that you have isn't going to work. Instead, let's do this because this is what I've seen work 20 times,
Mm.
right? For me, I believe that it starts with believing that it can,
Mhm.
and having practicing those visualizations so that you know what it looks like and where you are going.
And just to tell the audience, she's not saying that it's not possible, because she's not saying that. She's saying that if you do it this way, it's going to be a lot more challenging. And then the probability of success is going to be lower than if we did it this way. It's not saying, oh, you want to go to the moon? Poppycock, right? It's not that, right? It's, you want to go to the moon? Okay, it's going to be a lot of work. So let's figure that out together. So I want people to understand that. I thought about something. Elon Musk says this. I know, I'm not sure if he's the originator of this quote. If you give yourself 30 years to complete a goal, you'll take all 30 years. But if you give yourself 30 days, you will try to find a way to get it done in 30 days. And he talks about cleaning a room. So we can either waste time and take up every bit of time that we give ourselves, or we can say, how can I get this done as soon as possible, as quick as possible, as efficient as possible? And then I can use that rest of the time to build more. There's a reason why 2% of people achieve wild success in their life. Success is not one of those things that is going to be limited just to a few select people. Everyone has the capability of being successful. Now, success is going to be defined by you. Success could be living in a cabin if you want it to be that. Success can be owning 395 acres and then having horses on it. That is going to be up to you. What does success mean to you? Understanding that, understanding everything that you want. And then you just have to find a way to get it. And then you have to figure out how to get there as quick as possible. Not saying you don't enjoy the journey, because life is a journey and happiness is not going to wait for you at some magical destination. Enjoy what you do. And if you can find a passion in your work, you already won, to be honest. Because, just like Midori, she is able to have this business and she has so much passion, and you can hear it in her voice. You can see she's knowledgeable about what she talks about, and she's caring in the same regard. So it's like, yeah, of course, why not have her in your corner? She's going to be an asset. I love bringing on people like you, Midori, who have a coaching career, who aim at helping people get to a better mindset, a better life, everything better. And that's so positive to have people like yourself trying to make the world a better place, one person, a group at a time, family at a time, whatever it be. That's your mission, that's your goal, and I love it, and I'm definitely a part of that.
Thank you. Yeah, it is a journey, and you talked about that. And as you're going through it, as you go through the challenges and the bumps and bruises, always, if you have that mindset of this is just a journey, and I'm going to have something to share as I go, right? If you have those experiences, it makes life so much more rewarding and enriching. So, yeah, I think it's a great point.
So if we can from you, can we get a few last words? Anything profound if you want, and then after, just share how people can find you, of course.
Yeah. Again, I think it's about where are you going? Where do you want to go? What's that big vision that you want? Don't limit yourself to what you want. Just figure out the framework of how you're going to get there. Who do you need a who for your what? And keep on going and know that the whole process is a learning experience and you're getting stronger along the way and just not to give up. That's really how simple it is and just having that system in place. And what I'd like to offer people in alignment with what we've been talking about is we've been talking about staying focused and knowing what your big, fat, exciting goals are, whatever it may be, whether it's going and living on a boat and traveling the world in the ocean, whatever it is, or having a business or, just being free.
Mm-hmm.
Is I'd like to share my summit goal mapping framework, and that will help you figure out how to set the right goals that are strategic and then how to create your action steps to get there, to create your roadmap to get to where you want to go and make it a lot simpler and a lot clearer. And all they have to do is go to fueltofire.groups.com/goals and they can get it there.
All right, perfect. I will have all of your links in the description box below so everyone can easily click to go to this 7-step program, or they can just go to your website, any social media sites where people can connect with you, follow you, and continue to stay behind the work you do. Because I believe following someone or having someone who's in the space of personal development and helping people, if you can surround yourself with more people like that, not just me and listening to my podcast, but going to other coaches' websites and checking out what they do and start to basically building block of all of these different ideas and wisdom nuggets. So what you say, it has an effect, and then what I say has effect, and then it's kind of like two people on one mission to help you, the audience member, get to the life that you want. Rather than just one person, you have two people on your side, and it's going to be so much more efficient. Having two different voices saying basically the same thing is that you are able to do something amazing in your life. So why are you waiting? Thank you so much, Midori Verity, for coming on Coaching in Session. Huge pleasure.
Thank you for having me.